We did the lofting here and we were able to achieve a form that actually touches the ground plane and then can lift up off that ground plane. I want to show you a way that you could sweep these curves together. So I'm going to select a new layer, which I'm on the blue layer, and I'm only going to have the black portion of this done up. And so now what I'm going to do is draw a line, and I'm going to turn the near on so that way I can select somewhere on this curve, and then I'm going to do my perpendicular, and let's see if it chooses a perpendicular point. So there's a perpendicular point right there. And then I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to do something very similar, and I'm going to look for that perpendicular point. So it's giving me those 2 points right there. And now I'm going to turn on my midpoint. And I'm going to draw just a straight line from midpoint to midpoint. Bless you. So now that I've accomplished that, I'm going to show you something, and let's see if this works out pretty well. It's called divide. And what it's going to do is you can divide a curve, and what it'll do is you select the curve, you hit enter, and it asks you the number of segments you want to divide it by. I'm just going to go ahead and do 10 for now, and you'll see it creates 10 points for you on that curve, and they're spaced evenly. You can also do more or less. You just choose the number there. And you can actually have it split the curve too if you wanted to. So just take note of that you could actually have it split it. Well, I'm just going to do 10. And so now that I have those points, I am one step closer to sweeping. Now, let's actually beforehand, let's try doing the sweep 2, and let's select our 2 rails. So here's rail 1 and rail 2. And then here's our cross-sectional points. And you see how it creates the form for us, right? So it worked out pretty well. It did it for us. And it used these 2 straight lines right here to loft. Essentially what it's doing is it's sweeping a rail around this profile. Now maybe if we wanted to do something a little more accurate to what could be happening in real life, maybe give this a little bit of an arc to it, and so I'll show you how to do that. So let's go to our arc toolbar, and the one we're going to use is this one right here, an arc from a start, end, and point. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to use the start of the arc. I need to turn on my end control, my object snaps on end. And I want to also turn on point because we got points here. So I'm going to select an endpoint, and now it's asking me to select the end of my arc, so that's going to be here. And now it's telling me to choose a point. And so I'm actually going to choose this one point here that I divided on. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. So start point, end point, and I'm going to choose that first point there. If you look at this profile in top view, you can see that I'm creating a couple of very smooth arcs, right? So I'm going to change my layer to the green one so I can sweep again. And this time when I sweep, instead of using the straight profiles or the straight curves, I'm going to use my arced ones. And let's see what kind of result we can get here. So I'm going to go sweep 2. I'm going to select my first rail, which is the arcs that I just created, and my second rail, which is the other arc. And then I'm going to choose my cross sections here. And I'm going to hit enter. And then enter one more time. And I'm going to hit OK. And now you see my shape has become a lot more smooth, right? And let me show you what the other sweep looks like. So if I might, yeah. So I'm gonna go into ghosted mode so you can see through it, and you'll see the difference here. If you look down in here, you'll see that my green one has really taken to that arced shape there. Where if you use straight lines, it's going to create just a very rounded profile. Whereas the other one is very curved and smooth. So let's say if we went through this process again to the next one, let's see what kind of result we're going to get. So I'm going to first go back to my blue layer and turn off my green one so that way it's hidden. And I'm going to draw another line. This time I'm going to reference the line that I had already created, so I'm going to use that endpoint, and then I'm going to look for, I need to turn back on my perpendicular. I'm going to look for the perpendicular, and I'm also going to turn on my near so that way it knows that I'm trying to reach something on this object here. It looks like my perpendicular is down there. And I'm going to go to this other side, and I'm going to look for the perpendicular on this edge. It looks like it's up there. So now I've done that, I'm going to use my midpoint again. Draw a midpoint line, and I'm going to divide that by 10. And then now I can use my arc again, which is my arc from 3 points here. And so I'm going to use my start, my end, and I'm going to just select that first point there. And then I'm going to flip around the object and do it on the other side. Start, end, and choose that point. Now when I sweep this, it should give me a very similar profile. So I'm going to select my 2 rails, and I'm going to select my 2 profiles that those rails are on, and I'm going to hit enter. And it looks like it gave me another version of it there. So I'm going to try something a little bit different. Instead of, I'm going to choose different things to sweep from. So I'm going to actually make these 2 my rails, and then I'm going to make these curves my cross sections. It looks like it didn't give me a very good result there. I was hoping for the best, didn't quite work out. So I'm going to redo what I did before, which is select the first rail and the second rail, and then my 2 profiles, and then hit enter. And then you could just keep continuing this process all the way down, and you'll start to get a very different shape than what we had here. These are going to be straight, and then these ones are going to be a lot more curved to our arc there. So you can see the difference between these two. So you could keep going along and doing this process. Midpoint to midpoint. Divide, since it's getting a wider distance, I'm going to do 25 instead, so we have more points to choose from. Endpoint to endpoint to arc. Endpoint to endpoint to arc, and then now I can sweep 2. And you'll notice this one came out a lot smoother than the last one. I think that the arc might have been too strong on this one, so it started to deform the shape a little bit weird. So what I'd actually do is, if it does do that, is I'd redivide the amount of points and make this arc a lot less sharp.